Well, in Job chapter 24 might feel a little not redundant, but familiar because it's a very similar concept to what we got in chapter 21. So if you want to add a little bit more to this, go watch the video for chapter 21 and then watch this one as well. Because Job is still speaking here. And yes, he's going to admit that sometimes wickedness does pay off, but only for this life, and then judgment will eventually come. There will always be that justice. It'll be taken care of. So he's again trying to explain this greater principle, the grander plan to his friends. We'll see if this works or not. But let's read what he's trying to teach them in chapter 24. Now, verse 1, why seeing times are not hidden from the Almighty, do they that know him not see his days? Some remove the landmarks. They violently take away flocks and feed thereof. They drive away the ass of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hide themselves together. Behold, as wild asses in the desert, they go forth to their work, rising betimes for a prey. The wilderness yieldeth food for them and for their children. They reap every one his corn in the field, and they gather the vintage of the wicked. They cause the naked to lodge without clothing, that they have no covering in the cold. They are wet with the showers of the mountains, and embrace the rock for want of a shelter. They pluck the fatherless from the breast, and take a pledge of the poor. They cause him to go naked without clothing, and they take away the sheath from the hungry, which make oil within their walls, and tread their winepresses, and suffer thirst. Men groan from out of the city, and the soul of the wounded crieth out, yet God layeth not folly to them. So he's saying basically here, he's like, yes, sometimes people do bad things, and sometimes they don't get instant punishment. So Job is again trying to help his friends understand that this gospel of prosperity philosophy that they're believing in is incorrect. Yes, it's technically correct that the wicked do get punished, but it doesn't mean they're punished immediately. I mean, think about that. If you went through life and you were instantly punished for everything you did wrong, that would be interesting. That direct feedback in some ways might be a benefit to you because maybe you wouldn't get into certain things. But we know that, and this is what Job's trying to tell him, that look, sometimes the wicked are allowed to be wicked. They have their agency and they have their ability to choose that. So God doesn't instantly punish them, but there will always be a recompense. That reconciling will always happen. So that's what he's getting into. He says in verse 13, they are of those that rebel against the light. They know not the ways thereof, nor abide in the paths thereof. So they're not keeping the commandments. They're not going towards God. They're leaving God. They're going the opposite way from God. Verse 14, the murderer rising with the light killeth the poor and needy, and the night is as a thief. The eye also of the adulterer waiteth for the twilight, saying, no eye shall see me, and disguiseth his face. In the dark they dig through houses which they had marked for themselves in the daytime. They know not the light. For the morning is to them even as the shadow of death. If one know them, they are in the terrors of the shadow of death. So he's mentioning here basically that people who do wicked try to hide it. They try to conceal it from everybody else. They go and do things at night when it's dark and they can hide and they can conceal their faces better. They hate the morning. They hate the light. So he's using this concept of night and day as a metaphor to understand righteousness and wickedness. They want to do things where it's easier to be more wicked. They hate doing things around the light because the truth of the light exposes their wickedness and their faults and their problems. Just like the dawning of a day would show people their problems. If someone tried to kill out in the open during the day, it would be easy to say that's the murderer. He needs to be have justice meted upon him. If he waits till night, it's hard to know who that is. So he can kill the person and have a chance of escaping, getting away with the crime. So the light, the truth of the gospel exposes the faults. It exposes that. And if you're wicked, you don't want that. You want to be hidden. You want to remain in a state where you can do what you want without being exposed for the faults. That's what he's talking about here. Verse 18, he is swift as the waters, their portion is cursed in the earth. He beholdeth not the way of the vineyards. Drought and heat consume the snow waters, so doth the grave those which have sinned. The womb shall forget him, the worm shall feed sweetly on him. He shall be no more remembered, and wickedness shall be broken as a tree. He evil entreateth the barren that beareth not, and doeth not good to the widow. He draweth also the mighty with his power. He riseth up, and no man is sure of life. Though it be given him to be in safety, whereon he resteth, yet his eyes are upon their ways. They are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. They are taken out of the way as all other, and cut off as the tops of the ears of corn. And if it be not so now, who will make me a liar and make my speech nothing worth? So Job is again telling them, look, justice will be meted. Yes, sometimes people aren't punished immediately. Sometimes they get away with it for a while. God will mete this out. You got to look at the eternal perspective of things. And he kind of challenges his friends to prove him wrong in verse 25. So he's not trying to say what I believe is of ancient origin. What he's saying is this is the truth. Let me help you understand. You have a little bit of truth. Let me help you understand more. But his friends have been really stubborn to defend their truth, their belief, more than understand what he's telling them. And that's a good lesson for us to understand. When is it sometimes that we get stubborn about what we believe and aren't willing to open our mind to see other perspectives? That's the debate, the challenge is happening here. So now let's jump over to chapter 25 to hear some of the response of his friends as he's still trying to convince them that they're not completely correct.